Hey folks, before we get to this week's show, I wanted to give you an update on some talking points from this episode. This episode was recorded before the new cast of Frozen the Broadway Musical began performing on Broadway. We have since learned that the sisters' duet, I Can't Lose You, has indeed been added to the Broadway production. Also, Anna's song True Love has been removed, and the Act 2 opener has been shortened, along with some other smaller changes to clarify story and make an overall more appealing show. Essentially, all of these changes are coming from reworking the national tour as we discuss in this episode. Now on with the show.
Do you dream of fairies and princesses? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Dizney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Dizney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, I have a discussion with my friend and original DCTC co-host Patrick Dougal about Frozen the Broadway Musical. In March of 2018, Frozen the Broadway Musical opened in New York City, and in late 2019, the first national tour of this production began its run at the famed Pantages Theater in Hollywood, California. I recently caught the show for the first time as it made its stop in Los Angeles, and Patrick not only saw the tour, but originally saw the production on Broadway and shares some comparative insight between the original Broadway production and the touring show. Hear all about the latest production from Disney Theatrical right after this. People often ask me which book about Walt Disney is my favorite. I always have the same answer. It's called How to Be Like Walt, Capturing the Disney Magic Every Day of Your Life. Not only is this book biographical, but it also shares insight and life lessons. It is a truly enjoyable and inspiring read. Right now, you can get a free copy of the audiobook over at audibletrial.com/DCTC. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Sign up today at audibletrial.com/DCTC for your totally free 30-day trial, and grab yourself that free copy of How to Be Like Walt, along with thousands of other options. I know there are tons of books that I always want to sit down and read, but the reality is that time is limited. With an Audible audiobook, it allows me to catch up on some of that reading while taking long commutes, getting ready in the morning, and so many more times when I normally wouldn't be able to read. So give it a try and start educating and entertaining yourself at more times throughout the day. Once again, the site is audibletrial.com/DCTC. That's AUDIBLE trial.com/DCTC.
It's time to dive into today's Disney dialogue.
All right, Pat, you're back.
I'm back.
Well, I'm back. Welcome back.
Hello.
You are here to talk about Frozen, the Broadway musical. I think the last time you were on was for Aladdin, right? The Broadway musical.
Probably.
I think it was. And of course, this time, now you've seen it on Broadway.
Yes.
But the tour also just came through the Pantages Theater in Hollywood.
Correct.
Where you saw it again. I saw it for the first time. And this is, of course, the theater where we had our phenomenal Newsies experience.
Uh-huh.
The Pantages will always be that for me from now on.
It's the Newsies
It's
Theater.
the Newsies Theater. That's what it is. But we saw Frozen, the musical. And I'm trying to, what do they call it? They call it, even the tour is called Frozen, the Broadway Musical, which is, I'm always interested, like SpongeBob has changed their name like 3 times now.
Did they?
Yeah, they had a name for Broadway, then they had a name for the TV thing they did on Nickelodeon, and now they've got a name for the tour. So it's always interesting to me how they decide to name the tour version, because a lot of things are now the Broadway Musical.
Yeah.
But if it's not on Broadway, is it still the Broadway Musical? In the case of Frozen, yes, it is. Frozen, the Broadway
Is
Musical.
SpongeBob just SpongeBob the Musical?
Oh, SpongeBob has done... Actually, I think there might be an ad in here. No, that's Once on This Island. Let's see.
Which is also great.
The SpongeBob Musical is the advertisement.
The SpongeBob Musical.
So on Broadway, I think it was called SpongeBob SquarePants, the musical, or the Broadway Musical, one or the other. And then when they did it on Nickelodeon, they called it like SpongeBob Live or something like that. And now I'm looking at the advertisement for the tour, and it says Nickelodeon, the SpongeBob Musical, Broadway's award-winning hit. So Although this episode has nothing to do about SpongeBob.
know.
This is all about Frozen.
But I enjoyed SpongeBob as well.
I hated it.
Of course
but
you did.
I did not see it live.
Yeah, you
to
just
be
saw
fair.
the
And,
live version.
We're going to have a whole conversation about that. Because I literally, not to go on too much of a tangent, but I was sitting there, because I've heard a lot of people love the SpongeBob musical.
I love it. I enjoyed it.
People that you wouldn't even expect, like major theater critics and stuff, loved it. And so I was going and expecting something great. And I was just like, I am either this is lost in translation on television, or I am missing something here. But that's a different conversation. Let's get back to Frozen. You did see it on Broadway.
Yeah.
You saw it, I think, in the first year?
I saw it. I think it opened in February, and I saw it in March.
Okay, so was it in previews or like officially open?
It was officially open.
Okay. Now, I had a ticket to see it in Colorado for the out-of-town tryouts.
yeah.
Never ended up going. It was one of those things, I bought a ticket. I was like, we'll see if I get there. And I don't know, like, I had a lot of interest, and then I kind of didn't, and it went back and forth.
I know they changed a lot from Denver.
Yes, which was the point of the out-of-town tryouts.
Yeah.
So that's good and great and everything. But, yeah, so you saw it on Broadway, and you saw it on tour. You said not much difference, right?
No, yeah, there's very, very slight, there's slight differences in terms of the production, the sets and costumes.
Oh, there is?
And, yeah. But, no, there's slight.
Slight differences.
Slight. But in terms of story, they did change, I'd say a good amount from what I've seen of translations between other Broadway to touring productions.
Wait, so the book of the show has more changes than like the sets and stuff?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
We're going to have to get into that.
Yes, and I've heard, just going forward, that obviously, if you haven't heard, the original Elsa and Anna are leaving very soon, like within the next week. 2 new Anna and Elsas are coming in on Broadway, and I think they're reverting to the tour version to Broadway.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting, and that's fascinating to me. Usually when a show's locked on Broadway, it's locked.
Yeah.
I know that like Newsies had that slight change when they added Crutchy's song to the tour. And that happens, I'd say, pretty rarely, unless usually it's the set pieces and stuff that have the big changes just for the logistics of going on tour. So that's interesting that the book changed so much. That's really, really interesting to me. But I will say, I've mentioned this before, but I love the fact that Disney Theatrical really tries to make the production value as close to the Broadway production as possible.
Yeah.
And it's just not a regular thing.
Yeah, but I would say it's 99.9% the same. The only difference is during Let It Go on Broadway, they have
a platform.
For the dress change.
Yeah.
There's no platform on Broadway because they can just do it under the stage. Where as touring, you never know if you have it under the stage, whatever. So on the touring production, Elsa has a little platform she stands on for the dress change.
Yeah, when we get to that point, I want you to say what you compare it to, because I never thought of it, but you're 100% right. I was like, that's brilliant. But I just want to start overall opinion on this musical. Now, you were in New York to see a few shows, which is why you saw it, but was Frozen kind of one of the drawing factors for you?
Not the major.
Okay.
My major, I think Mean Girls was my major one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had friends.
Patrick.
I had friends in it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So what were your overall thoughts of Frozen? Like,
I enjoy let me tell you, in terms of like Disney Broadway musicals, like it was better than Aladdin.
Yes, and I will say that. So, guys, I guess we'll start with the overall thoughts on it. I'd give it like a B or a B minus.
Yeah.
It's plenty fine.
Like it's not Lion King.
It's a little bit above the DCA version, I would say. It's better than Aladdin, I would say, but like I just went in, and you mentioned Lion King. I continue to keep saying to myself, whenever I see a Disney Broadway musical, I'm always like, can we please go back to the Lion King formula? Can we please? It felt like a really well done theme park show.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what they're doing now with Disney on Broadway. It's not my favorite option. You heard Aida's going on tour, right?
No.
Aida is Disney is producing Aida.
Okay.
And it's going on tour. I think it's starting where Newsies started, the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey. And they're going on tour, and the rumor is like after that tour it might go back to Broadway. We'll see. I don't know. It's supposed to be very different from the original Broadway production.
Okay.
But in any case, I just want something again that was mind-blowing as opposed to expected, because this show to me was 100% expected. Nothing surprised me.
Yeah, it's the movie put on stage.
Yeah. Now, I do want to mention something that I saw in the lobby of the theater before I even saw the show. And you don't know what I'm talking about?
Anything to do with the merch?
Kinda. I was in shock. I've never seen this before for a touring show.
Yes.
You tell me, have you seen it before?
No, okay. I know what you're talking about though.
Photo ops for sale.
Yes.
So basically, like, your school prom photo or something, it's very normal for touring shows to have some sort of step and repeat or background that you can take a photo with, post it on social media, and hashtag them. Well, Frozen the Broadway Musical has decided, and do you remember this on Broadway at all? Did they have this in the lobby?
No.
Okay.
I feel like, Pantages Lobby is huge. I think the Broadway theaters are so tiny.
Maybe. Where are they at? They're
St. James.
St. James. That's like one of the biggest Broadway theaters. But in any case, yeah, so they sell photos, like a full-on photo setup with, the professional photographer and basically a prom photo. They sell it for like $40 or something. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Number one. And so I asked a Pantages employee, and I was like, hey, am I just out of loop? I've seen a lot of theater, but I've never seen this before. Have you ever seen anything like this where they sell photos in the lobby? And the guy just looks at me and he goes, it's Disney. They're soulless. He just walked away at that point. And I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So that was the first impression of Frozen the Broadway Musical.
Mind you, I did not take a photo on the backdrop.
Neither did I. I was flabbergasted.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's get to the show. Well, I've just kind of taken general notes of what I thought of the show. They're kind of in order of the show, but feel free to jump in or say whatever you want when it comes to this.
Okay.
I'm going to start, though, with we have a good amount of time on stage with young Anna and Elsa.
Yeah.
Much more than we do in the film. And for me, young Anna was the highlight performance of this show.
Yeah, she's great.
She was great, and I they alternate the kids. So yeah, whoever this young actress was who played young Anna, had that kid energy, but so realistically. Usually, a lot of times, you'll see kid performers do that kid energy, and it just feels false. I 1,000% believed this kid, thought she was brilliant, and really enjoyed her performance.
Yeah, normally, when there's an all-adult production, and if I'm going to Matilda or something, I know there's going to be a bunch of kids, but when there's an all-adult production, there's one kid actor, I'm kind of if I know they're gonna be bad. Sometimes sometimes when I saw Newsies and
okay, fair enough.
What's his name?
Les, right?
Yeah, I'm just just cut him.
I mean, you can't really cut the part. I don't disagree. Kid performers are hit or miss, I will say.
Exactly.
This one was a hit, and nothing against the Elsa. The Elsa was great as well, but the Anna really stuck out to me. But one thing that this show in general really just, repeated for me is Anna is such a more interesting character than Elsa.
Oh, yeah.
Elsa to me is kind of unlikable, and Anna is just so lovely. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I love Anna, and so, that had a lot to do with it as well. But she was really, really, really fantastic. I just want to start that out. And I'm glad that we kind of got to spend more time with the children versions of these characters in this production. One thing I loved, and I don't think this is the case. No, it's not the case in the movie. We saw Olaf made out of toys at the beginning. I was surprised by that.
Uh-huh.
And it's not Elsa using her magic powers to create Olaf the first time we see him. They literally take blocks and toy drums or whatever they had laying around in their toy chest and made an Olaf out of it, and then it kind of became a little bit of a puppet.
Did you notice the hidden Easter egg in Olaf?
No.
Oh, the ball that his body's made on is the Pixar ball.
Is it the Pixar ball?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's actually when I saw Frozen on Broadway for the first time, one of my friends knew a guy in the cast, so we went backstage, and the amount of hidden Disney stuff in the whole production is wild.
Yeah, I remember Beauty and the Beast had a ton as well. In the costumes specifically, there was a lot of...
just in the set, there's hidden Mickeys, and then there's the mountain people. They have tattoos that are very similar to Maui. It's
interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot.
A major Disney fan working on this. That's funny. But yeah, I just love the idea of Olaf being made from the toys. I thought that was fun. And also something that they really stressed in this that might be part of the movie, but definitely not as stressed, is the fact that Olaf has a little bit of Anna and a little bit of Elsa in him.
Yeah.
Is that something they touch on in the movie? I don't remember that.
Really.
If they do, it's
like
subtle.
More so in they have a whole song called "A Little Bit of Me, A Little Bit of You."
Yeah. I will say the new music in this did not rock my world. There's one song that we'll get to, and it's not Monster.
No.
Okay. So yeah, I just love that aspect. I think that was nice, and I think that makes Olaf kind of a more likable character because the character's even more connected to Anna and Elsa, which is cool. Now, something in this they did change kind of majorly was got rid of the trolls.
Yes.
Which are characters that apparently test very well. I heard a story, and I can't remember who I heard this from, but apparently Oh My Disney put out like one of those, those surveys of who's your favorite character and all that stuff. Like it was one of those things for kids to do online.
Yeah.
Apparently the trolls in Frozen tested through the roof, which is why they're in Frozen 2. Because if you really think about Frozen 2, they're not necessary, but it was like, Oh My Disney basically sent it over, was like, hey, guess what? These characters are popular. You best be putting them in the new movie. And I was
barely, but
they're there. Listen, you can sell plush if they're barely there.
That's
it's
true.
Fine. So it was interesting to me that they tested so well, but they are cut from the musical, which makes sense. I actually kind of like the way they do it at DCA. Disney California Adventure, if you don't know, has a stage production of Frozen. It's about an hour long, and it took over the Aladdin show. We've done full episodes on it, but in any case, the trolls are characters in there. This, they're not. And they're, what do they call them? The hidden folk?
Yeah.
They call them the hidden folk. And we meet them very early on because the mom calls them. So, Frozen 2, Frozen the Musical, does that mythology connect?
Yes, because this is what took me out a little bit when I first saw it here. I think they added lines after Frozen 2. There's one part where she's like, how did you, like, she like calls them to the window and they're like, how did you know? And she's like, I'm from the people of the North.
Okay, so you don't remember that on Broadway?
I'm like 99% sure that was not on Broadway.
Interesting.
So I think because this tour started like after.
I think we were the first stop.
Yeah, this tour, it was after Frozen 2. So they like knew going in like what happens in Frozen 2. So I think they added as much into this to make Frozen 2 seamlessly transition into it.
I love that. That means, the canon is
there.
True throughout. And I personally love that. I love the fact that they took the time to even consider that. And that's wonderful because I had heard that when Frozen 2 came out, I heard people like rumblings of saying, oh, now it contradicts the musical. And I was like, oh man, really? And then I saw the musical. I was like, does it? And I was but that explains it. Perhaps they made some changes. So that's kind of cool. One thing I will say about these hidden folk though, and I was sitting in the theater kind of chuckling to myself, because when you first see them, you kind of just see their eyes in these hoods. Telling you, I thought there were some Jawas on stage. I was like, are you kidding me? Like it really
they called the Java.
Yeah, the Jawa hidden folk. But yeah, legitimately, I was like, it looks like some Jawas are showing up. And then they come and they're, like they're human form. I guess they're kind of like centaurs, right? Is that the word? Centaur?
Yeah. I don't think I don't know. They're
hidden folk.
They're hidden folk.
They're hidden folk.
They live in the north.
With tails, apparently.
Yeah.
So, one other thing and it's so funny because, obviously I've seen Frozen. I've seen it multiple times. But I don't have it ingrained in my head like nearly as much as like Lion King, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. That's stuff I grew up with. So I'm always like, I don't remember that from the movie. Was that in the movie? And maybe you can remember. I like the fact that these trolls or the hidden folks explain to Elsa rather that her powers can't be removed, because in the musical, Elsa really wants she basically feels like it's a curse, and she's like, please take them away from me. If you can fix Anna right now, fix me and take these powers away. And the hidden folk are like, no, we can't do that. That's not part of the movie, is it?
Not straight up. I remember they have the whole speech where like your powers will only grow.
Yeah.
But like I don't think she's blatantly like take them away.
Yeah, take them away. Yeah. And I kind of loved that. That was something that made me like Elsa a little bit more. I was like, okay, you realize that you're vicious, queen, and remove these evil powers. I liked it. So nice little touches throughout. I would say, when you're making an animated film, you've got about 90 minutes to tell your story. When you got a Broadway musical, you've got about 2 hours and 15 minutes if you subtract the intermission. And so there's room for expansion. Some of these little moments, great choices as far as expansion is concerned. Then there's a musical number that I was like, why did you expand this? Love is an Open Door, which is a song I've never liked. It's not that I don't like the song. I don't think it's appropriate for Frozen. It is the song, and gosh, I'm sure you can go back to old episodes of us talking about the original Frozen, and it just felt like a song that does not fit with the rest of the movie. Very much like the 80s pop ballad in Frozen 2 feels out of place. I've always felt Love is an Open Door feels out of place, yet this is a song that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger when it comes to this franchise because at DCA, oh my gosh, the song Love is an Open Door is like a theme throughout that entire production. And then in this one, they lengthened the number, and most of it's on like an empty stage. I didn't get this choice.
The number itself is they don't expand upon verses or anything. I think they just put a giant dance break.
Yeah, there's a dance break, but I was just like, we don't need any more Love is an Open Door.
The thing, I only enjoy it because when you see especially this on Caroline.
There are weird dance moves.
They made her so horny in this production, or the character choices that Caroline
Inner Bickler,
who plays on the touring production, makes the choices,
horny choices
that I 100% are for.
I actually had in my notes at one point. I took them out because I don't remember specifically, but now that you're mentioning it, it's crotch stuff and breast stuff going on.
I mean, that happens on Broadway, but I felt like the touring production, they just went for it even more.
They went for it. So basically, the director-producers of Frozen the Broadway Musical are horny, and that's why Love is an Open Door is expanded.
I mean, Anna's like 18. She's like been locked in a tower, not a tower, but locked in a castle.
Yeah, love at first sight, with a prince. I mean,
she's horny.
Yeah, so I don't know. Love is an Open Door, man.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, and a lot of people like it.
I do agree with you that it literally happens in an empty stage, though.
It's an empty stage, and here's the other argument: if you're gonna expand a song in Frozen, what should that song be?
Let It Go.
Let It Go, which is not expanded, which is frankly not the Act 1 finale I expected. We will get to that, but I was flabbergasted to see that Love is an Open Door was expanded and Let It Go was not. In shock. We will get to it.
Okay.
Let's talk about Sven. Sven, I was going to say has no head, but that's not the right way of putting it. Unlike the DCA version where you see the performer's head sticking out of his back, and I call it, the Sven tumor, that is not the case on the Broadway tour, which I'm thrilled about. I will say that performer has the toughest job in the entire show.
Yeah.
I remember a similar costume. Gosh, it's probably been over a decade at this point, but when they did a revival of Into the Woods on Broadway, Chad Kimball, I think, played the White Cow. Are you familiar?
Oh, no.
Are you familiar with Into the Woods?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that an actor played the cow.
Yeah, so in the revival, the original Broadway cast, it was just basically a prop that was carried around. Yeah, an actor, and it was very similar to the Sven suit. And, I mean, that is backbreaking work. I honestly don't know how they do it, but
I did watch, I think on YouTube there's a full, video on, how it works. And, and how much training and core strength you need to do that role. Yeah. I think that role alternates. Is there one alternate on tour? I know on Broadway they had I think the main guy only did 5 shows a week or something because it's just so hard on your body.
I would assume so. Let's see. I'm looking through the program right now. Sven at certain performances. Yep. Yeah. So Sven, yes, we've got Colin Baha and Evan Strand on tour, and they're alternating, apparently. I'm actually really happy to see that, and I didn't know that, so thanks for pointing that out, because that's a tough gig. I mean, even watching it, I was worn out. I was just like, that's crazy. But no tumor head on his back, so fantastic. I love it. Let's see. Oh, there was a moment in that scene when we meet Kristoff where, he knew already about... He made a comment about Queen Elsa freezing the kingdom. And this was moments after it happened and Anna runs into him and stuff. I was like, wait a sec, how does he know this? There was a bit of a story flaw that I was just like, I'm not buying this right now. How does this guy know this information? This all just happened. Did you catch this or no?
No.
It weirded me out. Just wanted to point that out.
All right.
And then there's In Summer.
Yes. Oh, we also have to talk about how, like, obviously the first act does not follow the movie in terms of they had to make Let It Go the end act one closer. So you kind of, like, skip over it and go straight to, like, Anna pushing through the North Mountains.
Yeah, that was something that was really interesting, and I thought about it as I was at the show. I was like, okay, I'm trying to think where Let It Go fits in the movie, and I'd say, maybe a third of the way through? I don't know for certain. I've never really timed it, but it feels early in the film.
Yeah.
And as you said, the Act 1 closer has to be Let It Go.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. It didn't feel out of place.
No, they do the weird thing where she starts running and then she, like, runs into the side of the theater and then they do that whole projection thing and then, she just kind of runs away.
Yeah, so, it makes sense for the stage musical, I would say. But In Summer, like Prince Ali, better in Disney California Adventure.
Yeah.
In Summer,
nothing really happens.
No. Once again, I mean, as I said, Love's an Open Door, although expanded, empty stage. In Summer, I was like, this is such a fun charm song. And frankly, if you're going to have a charm song in Frozen, it should be In Summer, not the beginning of Act 2, which we will talk about, because that was infuriating. But the top of Act 2. Oh gosh. Woohoo. Don't even get me going. But In Summer was just really short and dull, and I don't know.
Yeah, nothing really
I was surprised.
happened.
Olaf is a loved character.
He just sings the song.
But it's legitimately bigger at Disney California Adventure.
Yeah, I mean, there's dancers that come out and all that stuff. Here, they change the lighting cue. A billboard comes down.
Yeah, I was very, very shocked by that. Something to point out that I noticed was how little adult Elsa is actually in Act 1. Of course, she closes Act 1, but not a ton of stage time.
Yeah,
which
they even gave her that Dare to Dream song, but it doesn't. It's like the coronation song.
Yeah, we're skipping over all the new songs, and I'll tell you the reason for that. I didn't find any of them to be that great. It starts with Let the Sun Shine On, A Little Bit of You, Hidden Folk, Do You Want to Build a Snowman, For the First Time in Forever. Hans of the Southern Isles has a song. Queen Anointed, I think, is the one you were just talking about.
No, that's just the like prelude to when they go. Even the DCA had it and then cut it.
Yes. Dangerous to Dream, Love's an Open Door, Reindeer Are Better Than People, What Do You Know About Love, In Summer, Hans of the Southern Isles, and Let It Go. Those are the songs from Act 1. I don't know. The new stuff didn't feel out of place or anything, but none of it stuck out to me very much. I don't know. Didn't rock my world. But let's get to the end of Act 1. So Let It Go, as we said, not lengthened. That was very surprising. Not as spectacular as I expected. I got to be honest, the Disney California Adventure staircase that they use,
it's cool.
I think is even better. If you've never seen a Disney California Adventure, there's plenty of videos online. But basically, there's a giant staircase that Elsa runs up, and this is where the dress transformation happens at Disney California Adventure. And then the staircase like swings out over the audience, and it's pretty cool. You got none of that here. And I don't know. People love the dress transformation.
Yeah.
The vacuum suck.
Yeah.
And as you describe it.
Yeah, it's very similar to if you've ever seen Voyage of the Little Mermaid in Hollywood Studios when Ariel's just like sitting on the rock and she does the mermaid to human transformation. It's basically just like a vacuum that sucks the fin really fast.
Yeah, that's
basically what happened with Elsa's dress.
It's the perfect description. Now, listen, I've seen a lot of theater, so maybe I'm just like jaded by the stuff. I didn't find it all that magical. What I would love to see, if you go back to the animated film of Frozen, her dress transformation is not like a quick change.
Yeah, no,
it's this beautiful, slow, kind of elegant dancing of sparkles. I would love to see something. I wish they had created something like that through like map projection technology or something. And then I would have been like, wow, because this show does not have a flying carpet moment. It does not have a beast transformation. It does not have, it just, Disney Broadway musicals or Broadway musicals a lot of the time have that one spectacle that everybody talks about. If it's Phantom of the Opera, it's the chandelier. If it's Miss Saigon, it's the helicopter. In Frozen, doesn't have that for me. Maybe some people would consider the dress transformation. I don't. They made up for it at the end of the show, which we'll talk about, but it makes no sense. So, I don't know. I wish the dress transformation had been that thing, and I didn't get it. and I knew this going in. I had seen on TV the vacuum suck.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you like it?
It's fine. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's anything like huge.
I don't know exactly how they do it. She is walking around, unless she's just wired in before, and she's walking around that stage all wired in already. But I don't know. Something happens where it catches on something.
My favorite part is they literally, I don't know if they just like took it for DCA, but they do the wire pull of the glove and the cape. That's exactly from DCA. And I just laugh because everyone, when I saw it, everyone's still like, oh, and I'm like, there's nothing new to me.
Yeah, well, we're spoiled.
Yeah.
But also, there's another moment later in the show that I'll just talk about now. The reactions to Hans's secret.
Oh, yeah.
Where people are like, oh, I'm like, have y'all not seen the movie? It was such a weird reaction from people. I'm like, I know everybody here has seen this movie.
Yeah, the audience, maybe just the LA audience are over enthused, but I had like,
usually we're pretty harsh critics, so that's a little surprising.
I don't know. I feel like maybe it was a lot of people's first show. I don't know.
Possibly.
But like after the Act 1 closer of Let It Go, the decibel level of like cheering and yelling was like louder than I've ever heard.
I will say, like, for a show that obviously is geared very much toward kids, I had a very good audience.
Yeah.
And I'm very picky about the way the audiences behave in a theater. For a mostly kid show or, half kid show, really well behaved, which means to me that they were really into the show. Mm-hmm. Wasn't a lot of noise and finicking around and all that stuff. So, like, bravo for that, and yay to the kids who are disciplined. That's great. But yeah, they did react in interesting ways to things. The Hans thing, his secret, I was like, we all know it. I can't believe this is shocking to you. And then the glove was funny. I just love that that's become such an iconic moment because it is so beautiful in the film when the glove and the cape flies away. This is going to sound stupid and nitpicky, and I'm sure it's done the same exact way, but whoever's pulling that string, in DCA when I've seen it done, it feels like the wind is taking it away. When I saw it on tour, it felt like it was a piece of cloth hanging on a wire being pulled away. I don't know what it was.
I don't think I can ever see it just floating away. I always just see the little string pulling it.
It is
production.
fun, but aren't you happy it's there?
Yeah, it's fun.
I would be bummed if it wasn't there.
The thing is, what is it? In DCA, they do the one glove and the cape.
Yeah.
On tour, they do both gloves and the cape.
Is it both?
Well, no, she drops the cape and then she throws. It's fun.
Yeah, so lots of magical winds happening in Frozen the Broadway musical. So yeah, I don't know. Let It Go, although a great number, and if you haven't heard the Broadway musical, the note goes up at the end.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Anyway, instead of that hushed.
Anyway.
The cold never bothers me anyway. So it's a bigger number, done 8 times a week, live on stage, and the note is hit. That's all I will say.
Yeah.
So
Carolyn Bowman, who was also on tour, I thought she was great.
Okay, actually, can we have this conversation?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a jerk conversation.
Okay, let's do it.
But if you've listened to the show for a while, I'm not the biggest Idina Menzel fan, and she often doesn't hit her notes. So I want to have this conversation about, we're recording this the day after the Oscars just happened. What did you think of how they handled that on the Oscars? Because I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they announced it, I was like, oh, I can see why they did this.
Yes. So they sang, of course, nominated for an Oscar, did not win. Elton John won. But what song was it?
Into the Unknown.
Into the Unknown. Aurora's voice, by the way. Oh my gosh. I love that. So into that. But they announced Idina will be singing the song, of course, joined by maybe 8 other women. I forget how many, but from all the different Elsas from around the world. So in all the different languages. And so like each Elsa took a snippet of the song. And I was like, okay, not only is this like a great idea just as an idea, but I'm like, you're covering your bases here. That was smart. Whoever thought of that. Sorry, jerk tangent.
She didn't do terrible.
No, she actually sounded really good.
Yeah, and she did the last note, so
she sounded very, very good.
It was very different from the Let It Go back in 2000.
Yeah, well, gosh, what was Frozen? 13, something like that.
2014
Oscars. I don't know, but yeah, it was She sounded great at the Oscars. I will say that. I just thought it was an interesting choice. So, shall we move on to Act 2?
Yeah.
The opening of Act 2 is the worst thing I've ever seen.
This is, okay, so I saw it on Broadway, so I went with...
I would love to know when this was added. I'd love to know if it was in Colorado. I would love to know how it made it past so many
It probably
tests.
never came out, I don't know.
Here's the thing. It's a charm song. The charm song serves no purpose. It's there to charm the audience. And it's at the top of Act 2 where a lot of people are returning from restrooms and getting their snacks, whatever. So I get it. I don't know if I've ever gone on this tangent before, but I hate intermission. I think it is a horrible, horrible thing in theater. I think all it does is stop the story from being told. Listen, the reason for it is to sell merchandise and alcohol. That's the reason intermission genuinely exists. The argument that people give is, oh, I can't sit there without going to the restroom. Yeah, y'all can, because y'all go to movie theaters, and movies with their trailers are often around 2 hours and 15 minutes. A Broadway musical without an intermission is 2 hours and 15 minutes. You can do it, is all I'm saying. So, tangent over there. But since a lot of the audience is coming back, it's not a terrible idea to have a song that is not necessary at the top of Act 2. But this one with, what is that character's name? The Wandering Oaken.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Oh my gosh. They gave him a whole number.
Yes.
And it's horrible. What is it called?
Huga.
Yeah, it's spelled Hygge.
Huga.
Oh gosh.
Basically,
with naked people.
Yes.
There were horny people making this show.
I saw it on Broadway when I went with a friend to see it on tour, and I remember right before Act 2 started, I was like, it's gonna get weird. I'm like, just brace yourself. It's about to get weird.
It did get weird.
Yeah, basically it's just Wandering Oaken telling their Kristoff and Anna are distressed, so Huga essentially means like happy, and when things are like not Huga, it's sad, so they're just saying the happy and sad, and then Wandering Oaken's family comes out in the sauna and they're naked.
They're naked. It was, with leaves covering certain body parts.
You say the song's not needed, but...
Oh, is there a story plot point in there?
This is just where, surprisingly, Anna doesn't get her iconic traveling winter dress until this part.
Oh, all right. So...
Because she's in, Kristoff gives her, these loner clothes for all of Act 1.
What do you think of the costumes in general? We should mention Olaf is very much like DCA, except no gun in the back of his head.
Yes.
It's no trigger gun, which is still weird at this point. It's very similar to what you see at Disney California Adventure. The costumes were beautiful, from what I understand, there is a Bible when it comes to Frozen. I've heard this before. I don't know how factual it is, but I've heard there is a Bible, and you really can't stray too far from it, as far as Disney's concerned.
I think it's...
Elsa's dress is this color, and so...
With Broadway, there's more I feel like
detail.
DCA is screen accurate, kind of and then Broadway's more similar but more detailed and better fabric and stuff like that.
It all looked nice, but nothing that I particularly remembered, although there is something cool that's done with costumes and map projection that we'll talk about. So yeah, I don't know, that Act 2 opener though, I was just sitting there rolling my eyes.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah, and it's like the entire cast pretty much ends up on stage, half naked. So if you enjoy seeing Wandering Oakens naked, you'll enjoy the top of Act 2. That happened. Then upcoming in Act 2 is, in my opinion, the best new song from the Broadway musical.
Yes.
It's a duet with the two sisters called I Can't Lose You.
Yes, and this is the biggest change because this is not on Broadway.
Oh!
Yes.
What?
Because
Are you certain?
Yeah, 100%.
So is this on the cast recording?
No, this only came out on the tour.
See, now this
is a brand new song.
So this is a whole other conversation. Disney has done this several times where they will open a show on Broadway and then make some musical changes. And I'm not saying minor things, add new songs.
Yeah.
In Beauty and the Beast, A Change in Me came in far into the run when, I forget who the actress was, but they wrote that song for a specific actress who took over the role of Belle, and then it stayed in the show. On tour with Newsies, as I mentioned, Crutchy gets the song. And now you're telling me the best song in the Broadway musical is not even on Broadway. That's interesting. I'll be curious.
And you really can't listen to it because it's not on the soundtrack either.
And that's the thing I was going to say is the bummer to me with these changes is I think it's great because in all cases, I think they were pluses. but it bothers me because they're not part of the official cast recordings, and you really can't find them. You'll find people do it like on their solo albums and stuff, but I don't even think like, especially these days, we're in a time period where people don't really buy full albums, they buy individual songs. So I feel like these should be available on iTunes or something for individual purchase. Maybe they are.
Something.
I don't know, but that's interesting.
Yeah, so basically this is the part of the show where Anna finds Elsa in the North Mall and goes into the castle. This is where, for the first time, reprise should happen, and that's what's on Broadway. It's for the first time in forever reprise.
No kidding.
So they cut the reprise for the tour and added this new song.
Did you know that going in?
No, I literally was like, I sat there on the tour and I was like, wait, what's happening? Where's the reprise? And I thought the reprise was going to happen after this song. I was like, oh, they just added the songs, but they full on cut the reprise for the tour and added this new song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Is the tour better?
Yes, that's why. Yeah,
the tour is better than the Broadway show.
I enjoy the tour better than. That's why I'm curious how much they're gonna change if they're gonna go to this for Broadway now.
I'm sure. You know, I don't. This is gonna sound stupid, but I don't know how much you can change. They probably can. They're the producers. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, especially when you're bringing on a
new cast. Yeah, I've just always heard like the term. A Broadway show's locked.
Yeah.
And I always thought that meant like it's locked. Like as long as this production exists.
Is there like a law?
Well, I'm not going to say that there's a law, but you could get into the fine line of is this false advertisement? Say Frozen won the Tony Award for Best New Musical. It didn't, but say it did. And then they made some pretty substantial changes, like adding a song. Could you still advertise that as the best new musical? I don't know, but it's a interesting conversation, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm like, I don't know, can they change that much? I hope they do, especially since that was my favorite part. I loved it. Now, there is a song from the movie that a lot of people hate that I love called Fixer Upper. And how do you feel about it from the movie? A lot of people hate it. I love it.
Meh.
Okay, I really like it.
Not a favorite.
I think it's a catchy tune. I think it's a funny tune. And I was concerned that it could be cut from the musical because of the fact that it was not a super popular song, and also it does have a very specific feel to it that maybe wouldn't fit with the Broadway musical. Mm-hmm. I'm happy they kept it, and they gave it since it's not the funny little trolls anymore, and it's those, what do they call them? The magical people, the folks. The hidden folk. Yeah. They gave it like a very tribal feel.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the same song. You will recognize the song, but the way it's orchestrated and arranged, it just feels more tribal and more fitting, frankly.
Yeah. And very similar to Love's Open Door, they added dance break.
Yes. This one didn't bother me as much. So
there's more people on stage.
Once again, adding music, yet let it go. No. All right. So
we'll come back and let it go at the end. That has a little reprise.
Okay. So Fixer Upper, I was happy to see it there. I thought that was great. Anything else you want to add about music before we kind of wrap this up?
Oh, if we're gonna, no, I want to go into the end because another song was cut.
Okay, from Broadway?
From Broadway.
Okay, we should talk about Monster as well.
Yeah, go to Monster first because this is towards the end.
Okay, so Monster it's the big 11 o'clock number. If you don't know what an 11 o'clock number is, it's the no good deed from Wicked of Frozen, and the 11 o'clock number is basically it's the kind of the climax that the female lead, I think it's always the female lead, usually performs, and it's that moment. This is the moment, and Monster's that. And I don't dislike Monster. I like it. This is the one they really seem to be pushing. Is like, this is the new song for the Broadway musical, and maybe I might agree with that if it weren't for I Can't Lose You, which of course isn't in the Broadway musical, as you just discussed. So I guess at one point this probably would have been my favorite new music, but I don't know. I like it. Don't love it. It's fine.
The only thing different, there's she brings out these ice spikes because this is when Hans and all the other his Goonies come to take Elsa away from the North Castle. She's like, do I kill them? Do I don't kill them? Whatever. And these ice, she brings up these ice spikes and surrounds them, which is pretty cool. However, I feel like it was a little cooler in the Broadway production because since they have the understage, they come up from understage. On the touring production, they like come out from the side. Okay, that was fine.
And this is kind of the suicide song, right?
Yeah, she's like, "Do I kill myself?"
Yeah, which I mean, and we're not really exaggerating that much when we say this is a song.
She literally, I think one of the lyrics is like, "If I kill myself, will it all stop?"
Yeah, and it's which is really heavy and deep if you think about it for a Disney Broadway musical. Just saying, if you can put that on Broadway, you can put Hunchback on Broadway. True. But yeah, that's pretty heavy, and it's a pretty strong message. And I think the thing that really hits home in the musical that you don't get so much in the film, although you do a little, is just how unhappy Elsa really is with these powers, and she really considers herself to be evil. Yes, they touch upon it in the film, but it's really big and heavy. And I do like that. I appreciate that about the musical. So yeah, Monster is kind of like that big 11 o'clock number in the show.
And then, so another big changes from Broadway to touring is once we go into the fateful room where Anna comes back to Arendelle, she gets placed in front of the fire, and Hans does his whole speech and leaves her.
And the audience is shocked. What?
He's like, "You won't get away with this." And it's like, all right, I already have. On Broadway, Anna has a full number.
Really?
It's called True Love, and she's basically like, "I don't know what love is anymore." It is, so slow.
Oh.
So boring.
Okay.
I'm glad they cut it for touring, only because, like, to be honest, it's Frozen, it's Disney, there's gonna be kids in the audience. You're already basically 2 hours into the show at this point. To have such a slow song at such an end, it's such a restless, moving around song that I didn't know they cut it again for the touring, so I sat there I'm like, all right, I'm going to this song, yourself. And then they just transitioned to the next scene, and I was like, oh my god, they cut that song.
That's interesting. So, one thing once again, I'm going to applaud Tom Schumacher and the folks at Disney on Broadway, because let's face it, they could just put the same exact show that was on Broadway, say, we've opened on Broadway, it's doing well, let's just go on tour. I love the fact that they're like, no, there are these little things that aren't working, there are these little things that could be better, and we're going to do it. Huge applause to them for that.
Yeah.
I love it. Why you didn't cut, what is it, Hickey?
Hugo?
Whatever it is.
Hugo.
Act 2 opener? I don't know. But, no, sincerely, though.
Oh, yeah, it's too big.
Sincerely, though, I think that's fantastic that they want it to be the best it can be. And that's awesome. I love that because, they don't have to.
Yeah.
Is really.
I feel like the same thing happened with that, I mean, Disney California is a different situation just because they're trying to get people. But they were like, it's too long, and people are getting fidgety just from a little over an hour show.
Yeah,
so.
That's been cut to about 45 or 50 minutes now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think, that's worth noting, and frankly, making those changes is not cheap. It's like, the Lopez's had to come back and write more new songs.
Yeah.
Unless there was stuff that they had during tryouts and stuff and threw away and brought back. I don't know. But to make changes costs money is all I'm saying. So bravo to them for that. That's fantastic. That's an interesting tidbit I did not know. Something I want to point out that I thought was really interesting is at one point, Anna punches Hans in this show.
Yeah.
And the audience reaction was wholeheartedly inappropriate in my mind. People are cheering at this moment, and I get it. Listen, he's the bad guy.
I feel like the same that happens at DCA too.
Probably.
Yeah.
We should not be applauding people being punched.
He deserved that.
Did he? I mean, arrest the man. Is that not enough? Punch him in the face, and people are like, yes!
I mean, the only reason that I think it's in there is because it's in the movie. Anna decks him off a boat.
Yeah, I don't know. You
gotta blame the original movie now.
It was more the audience reaction, severe cheer. I was just like, what? I was like, we're now condoning violence. This is wonderful. It's fine.
We all cheer when Gaston falls down a castle. We all cheer when Scar falls into a stampede.
But they fall and disappear. We don't really know what happens to them.
I guess.
So
you don't. He gets punched and then
he gets punched.
You know what happens to him. He gets taken away.
It was just an odd moment. I remember. So the Anna being frozen moment.
Mm-hmm.
Done similarly to DCA, but so much cooler. Now, if you've ever seen the Disney California Adventure version, this is obviously the moment at the end of the film when Anna's heart is frozen and her whole body freezes. So what they do in DCA first is she pretty much has an entirely white costume, and the actress freezes in a position, and then they map project frozen ice over her body. It looks really cool. It works really well. On the tour, what they did, and I loved this, was not only was it Anna, but a bunch of the ensemble performers as well.
Throughout the whole last song, the ensemble is basically playing snow.
Yeah.
They're all in white, and they're just like, we're snow.
Yeah, so they kind of line up behind Anna when she's in that frozen position, and they basically make one giant white screen out of their bodies. And so Anna is kind of frozen in motion. So you see her frozen body, but then you see this trail of ice behind her being projected on the ensemble. And it was really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I thought, I was like, this is a cool moment and done really, really well, I would say. That was kind of one of the highlights for me. I liked it.
Yeah.
And then we get to the end of the show. Now, here's the problem with Frozen and big epic finales. Everybody wants it to snow, right? Well, at the end of the story of Frozen, Elsa makes it, spring again or summer.
Yeah.
So there's no snow. So how do you have a snow finale without snow at the end of the story? Well, you just do it during the bows. And this is the point that, number one, they don't use Snope like we're used to in the parks because, doing that repeatedly is not great for the fabric on the seats in the theaters, and I'm sure that was an issue. So it's literally tiny, tiny pieces of paper, confetti.
White confetti.
And it's all over the theater. And it's done during the bows. So me, from a production-minded standpoint, I'm like, oh, this poor crew members that need to vacuum this up.
Show.
It's one thing if it's like, oh, this is necessary to tell the story. But when it's like, nope, we literally just wanted to have it snow in the theater. It doesn't make sense at the end of the story. So let's just do it during the bows. I was just like, nope, not happening. So this is their chandelier flying carpet moment where the kids freak out and love it. But I did feel bad for everybody because they're tiny.
They're so tiny.
Tiny.
I've found little ones on me.
Yeah.
At home.
Days later,
what is this? Confetti.
Elsa confetti. So yeah, that would be a complaint on my part there. But
the end finale song is basically just a reprise to Let It Go. So you get a little bit more Let It Go.
Yeah, that doesn't count. A reprise does not count as an expanded number.
You got a little bit more.
Okay. Better than Love's an Open Door reprise, a DCA.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's fun. So overall, like I said, enjoyable show. Mm-hmm. Definitely have some strong opinions about it, but I'd give it a solid B. I will preface this by saying I did win a lottery, so my ticket was $25. I wouldn't be happy if I had paid $150, but I'm pretty picky when it comes to theater. I'm lucky enough to see a lot of it. I love it. But, if this was your first theatrical experience, if you're somebody listening to this and you don't frequent theater and you're like, I want to go check this out, I love the movie, you're going to have the time of your life. It's very well done. It's just, not life-changing if you're a person that frequents the theater, I would say. And so that basically wraps up my thoughts on Frozen the Broadway Musical. Anything you want to add?
No, I think that's really it. I'm interested to see if they make any changes to the Broadway one as the new Anna and Elsa come in.
Yes.
But we'll see.
And whether or not some new music is released for purchase, because...
Yeah.
Otherwise...
I mean, did Crutchy Song ever come out?
So they did do a... they did a lot of music videos with the Newsies tour.
Yeah.
And they did have one of the Crutchies sing that song for a YouTube video. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they ever sold the song or whatever.
Yeah.
This is basically how you get people to illegally pirate stuff.
Yeah.
Is you don't make it available for sale.
You can find the song on YouTube of someone just recording it from the theater.
From the theater?
Yeah.
Obviously not the greatest quality and obviously illegal.
Yeah.
But if there's no other options, I really encourage. Whenever there's new content, I always encourage put it out there. Mm-hmm. Make it available to the public. People want this stuff, and it's shocking to me that I Can't Lose You was not on Broadway.
Yeah,
that is unbelievable to me. Anyway, you want to get some trivia?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
Do you know the answer? Get your brain gears churning and play along. It's trivia time.
All right, Pat, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
I'll hit you.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
I'll make it easy because I'll just say the character. So, basically, as I mentioned, the Anna and Elsa original OG cast on Broadway is it's once Anna leaves, it'll be no one left but one other character who's been there since the Denver readings, who will be the only original cast member left, and it's a character.
Okay.
Do you know?
I'm going to guess Olaf. No.
Olaf is actually a girl on Broadway.
I did. That's right. I knew that. Not originally.
No.
But yes, that role has been recast and is now female. Gosh, so somebody who's been with the show since Denver. It's a main character, I assume?
Yeah, it's a named character.
Woohoo. Is it really?
Yeah, it's Oaken.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine? He's been doing that Act 2 opener for like 3-4 years now.
Yeah, and he'll be the only one left.
God bless that soul. Oh, gosh. Consistent employment is a wonderful thing, and I wish him the best, but wow.
Hugo.
Hugo. Oh, no. Oh, God, no. Oof. Okay, so for you, I'm wondering, do you know how many shows Disney has put on Broadway? And I say that meaning like full runs, not like one-night concerts or anything like that, but full runs on Broadway. How many shows?
I feel it'd be easier if you gave me the number and I tried to name them.
Well, I was going to ask, see if you could. Well, let's start with the first one. What was the first one?
First one ever?
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, followed by?
Lion King.
Lion King, very good. Followed by? Now, this was the first time. This one I remember because I was like going to New York a lot at this point, and this was the first time that Disney had 3 shows on Broadway at once. And we talked about it a little earlier.
Was it Aida?
It's Aida, yes. So at this point, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and Aida were all running at the same time on Broadway.
Got it.
Then eventually, Aida was the first to close, and other stuff started coming in. So what would number 4 be?
What's the? Do I have a year?
Oh, I don't have a year, but it would have been early 2000s.
So I'm gonna say Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid does come up later. There's
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins is right before Mermaid, and right before that is?
Before Mary Poppins. Oh.
2 worlds, 1 family.
Oh, Tarzan.
Okay, so then you had Tarzan, Mary Poppins, Little Mermaid, followed by the greatest one of them all, Newsies. And then a play with music, not so much a musical.
Peter and the Starcatcher.
Very good. I saw that one on Broadway. And then we're going into stuff that's currently still running on Broadway.
Aladdin.
As well as Lion King, of course. Aladdin.
Frozen.
So that's 10.
Yeah.
10 shows. Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aida, Tarzan, Mary Poppins, The Little Mermaid, Newsies, Peter and the Starcatcher, Aladdin, and Frozen. And, I love Disney on Broadway. I know I sit here and I maybe I'm hard on it, but I love it. And Disney puts quality out there. My favorite, do you have a favorite of those? My favorite is definitely Newsies, which is funny because it's probably the least expensive production they put together.
Yeah.
Newsies?
Yeah.
Lion King is phenomenal as well. By the way, Lion King's going on, well, it's never really stopped going on tour, but it's going to be back in LA, I think in 2021.
Yes.
And I have been thinking for a long time, like, I need to see it. I saw it. It was the first show I ever saw on Broadway, so I saw it at the New Amsterdam. And then I saw it. It sat in Boston and reopened the Boston Opera House for about 6 months or so, and I saw it there. And I haven't seen it since then, and that was probably 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, last time I saw Lion King was probably like 2012.
Yeah, so I'm due for some Lion King. So when that comes through town, I'm going to have to see it. Is it doing the Dolby or the Pantages?
I don't know. That's why it's so hard here in LA.
I think it's doing the Dolby, so that's kind of cool.
Well, Hamilton's going to sit in the Pantages for
that's
like a year.
I think it's got 6 months, I think. Is it going to extend?
It's going to.
Okay.
Right now, it's still 9 months.
Still haven't seen it, and so
my God.
So I hope to win the lottery. But I'm honestly not dying to see it. I know that sounds crazy, but I've heard the cast album, and I'm not as obsessed as a lot of people are. But I hope to win the lottery eventually, since he's here for so long. And then also, the news of Disney buying the rights to put it in theaters is crazy.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I'll see it in October of 2021.
Yeah.
So, Pat, why don't you let folks know what you're up to and how they can find you?
Well, I'm just doing all the things.
All the things. Allthethings.com.
All the things. You can find me at Patrick A. Dougal on YouTube, Patrick A. Dougal on Instagram, and Patrick A. Dougal on Twitter.
All right. Well, Pat, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me. It was the blast.
And next time there's apparently we do musicals episodes together.
Yeah, when Hunchback finally makes its way to Broadway, we will be talking about it.
And Patrick Page finally wins his Tony Award for it.
He got nominated?
He got nominated for Hadestown. He did not win. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Pat.
Yeah.
Now, folks, that's going to do it for this week, but if you haven't listened yet, be sure to check out last Wednesday's episode of Disney Coast to Coast, featuring an exclusive interview with the show director from Disney on Ice. And of course, this upcoming Sunday, don't miss the House of Mouse headlines, featuring the latest news from around the Walt Disney Company. If you've been enjoying the show, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review for Disney Coast to Coast on Apple Podcasts, and consider becoming a member of the DCTC community over at patreon.com/DisneyCTC. You can find these links and more helpful information over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.